Hi, welcome to One Word a Day. I'm Sophie, your pilot into the universe of Chinese. We're going to continue our journey into discovering this amazing land or universe of a very ancient and very loaded language. Loaded in the sense of it got a lot of symbols, it got a lot of meanings making, and in the meaning making process, it's really amazing. That's what I'm here for. Try to unpack that for you. 事不关己 was what we talked about yesterday. You can pronounce the bu as a 不关己 or 不, like lightly touch it. So it's the attitude of it's none of my business. This is not my issue kind of attitude. So today we continue with 闯关东. 闯关东 is a specific era in China. It's a special time in China. Even if we made some movies or shows about it, about the storytelling, kind of like a documentary, realistic based, but it's still not that often talked about until like today. I'm sharing with you, I'm going to share a little bit history background about this 闯关东. So what exactly about it? So one last time we talked about is this door, right? This door symbol, 2-panel door, and then we have this lock mechanism back then. It's not a turnkey, like as convenient as today's door lock. Back then, the door lock, especially imagine the rich family doors, it's going to be even more elaborate, even thicker, with more door locks, right? Kind of like that depends on how much wealth it's behind that door. It's going to have a higher security level, so to speak. So this door lock back then is pretty complicated mechanism to make sure, like on the outside, there's no way you can break in. So this is our door locking. Eventually, it extended into imagine the Great Wall. That's our ultimate, the land-wise, the whole nation or country-wise door lock. That's like we're placing that long of a military structure to blocking out the enemy. We're not opening doors to the northerners. It's like a blocking over there. So that eventually is specially used for that kind of barrier placed between tribes or nations or however you want to view it. That's the barrier we're talking about, from this door lock of individual household extended to the door lock of the whole between the two land, basically. And 闯, again, we have this door symbol. It's good to see when you have it side by side because it's the same structure, the same formation of language, because we have this door symbol like this. And then within the space, we can fill in something else and make a different meaning. So beyond, this is the door locking mechanism, right? You can see pretty interesting mechanical device over there. And then this is our horse symbol. So we have this manes of this horizontally flaying manes of the horse. And then this is the head, right? And then you have 4 legs, 1, 2, 3, 4, galloping, and with the tail behind. That's just a very visual representation of horse. This pretty commonly seen and culturally also significant animal, because horse riding, it's not for entertainment, right? It's the luxury, sort of like a luxury travel vehicle back then. If you want to go far on foot, it's too slow, and only as people of a certain level can afford a horse and trained to ride on a horse, right, in long distance travel. So if you're riding, if you do see a horse beyond the door, that means you are going to venturing afar. You're going to travel long distance with the assistance of a horse, and then you're going to depart from whatever this door frame is holding you, your current living space. Like you're going to depart from here. You're going out on a horse to somewhere. Isn't that a poetic expression? Like visually, that's what it is about. And eventually, culturally, this chuang means like you're not going to stay in your comfort zone almost, like you're going to branching out to far away place to explore. And a chuang is not exactly a Chinese typical Chinese character, because Chinese like to stay together with the family. It's like generations doing the same thing, same trade, living in the same town kind of thing. That's majority what people do. But if you do take the move of moving out of your current living space, your current environment, you're going to a far away place, that's called a chuang. Okay, guan, barrier. And just here in this context too, is about the Great Wall. So imagine the ultimate door lock is of the nation is our Great Wall. And then Dong, the east. Okay, we have this tree image, have canopy on the top and tree trunk with a big arch at the bottom to mean there's a distance between the canopy and the ground level. So that's our tree symbol. And then we have something embedded in between the top canopy and the bottom is the sun symbol, which is kind of the circular or oval thing with a horizontal line. Horizontal line means there's energy in it. It's going to be beaming out energy to you. So that's our sun symbol. So sun embedded on the tree means the sun just rises above the ground level, and you can still see it kind of on the horizon, right? And it's still like not even taller than a tree yet. It's still like in between the trunks, means the day is still early. You just got a sunrise. And in Chinese, I mean, as well as the West as well, wherever you are on the globe, right? It's not a north-south thing, it's an east and west thing. The sun is always going to rise from the east. So the sun rising become our symbol of east. So barrier east means the east to the barrier. So what is exactly that? So picture China map if you can, and then we have this Great Wall somewhere in the northern part of China. And then beyond the barrier is still the land of current Chinese map, because of this Guangdong activity back then, that population was moved from the area, the agriculture densely populated Han, that's ethnic group, majority of Han ethnic group, generations of farmers in the south to the Great Wall. And they migrate to the northern part beyond this gatekeeper, this gating barrier over there, beyond to the east, which is the northeast of China. And picture Russia and Korea Peninsula, big Russia on top of China, right? And so between this Russia and the Korea, there's a patch of land that's to the outside world called Manchuria. That's the land where people migrate to. So this Guangdong actually refer to this activity, historical event, is a migration of 25 millions of people to Manchuria from mostly Shandong province. The Shandong province is where the Confucius started, rooted. So that's a heavily populated, culturally, already very Confucius educated land. And people from there, according to the government policy back then, which was still ruled by the Qing dynasty, to encourage them to leave their land, which was big deal back then, leave their land, on a horse or on a boat, however you made it outside beyond the Great Wall to the northeast Manchuria portion, part of China. Because the historical background is like this: Russia is populating the far east of their land, and it end up taking a portion from China's land because it was so underpopulated back then. The Qing rulers used to be this horse riding tribe, live in Manchuria and beyond, like northern, like a whole that patch, and they took over China, the farmers in the south. So they actually getting down this barrier of Great Wall, getting down inside China, and of course, horse peoples are much more well equipped and speedier warriors. So the farmer based military is no competition, right? So they kind of retreat and eventually moves further south, get rid of the resistance, and that's the Qing dynasty. And because they moved south and they find, wow, life beyond the Great Wall is pretty good. Like you have a sustained economy, you have farming, and you don't have to go chase after the green grassland to feed your crops. Your herds, right? So you have a good life over there, and they are the rulers of this new much bigger land. So that's why it got depopulated on the northeast part of China, and then Russians are kind of taking it over. And when the Qing realized, oh, they have to repopulate that land, they start to set the policy to allow the Han, which is their ruled, a different ethnic group, but they're under their rule, which are the farmers, allow them to populate that part of China. So that's how they hold that land, by populating it. So this event happened at the turn of the century of 19th century. Is it called 19th or 20th? Okay, the early of 19th to 20th century turn. So it's roughly 130 years ago, and lasted about half a century and 25 million people, because China was still back then was already pretty high populated country, because it's farm based, it's a lot of population. And just to give you a sense of scale, the Great Movement moved to the west, the Western expansion, the Wild West of America. That era is occurring about a similar time frame, right? It's 8 million. So here is 3 times more of that population. And there was this Russia to Siberia, which is the simultaneous, the background of their kind of the two regimes, from Russia from west to east, and Qing from south to north, kind of going to the same area to take that piece of land. They are occurring about the same era, and they got 4 million. I mean, population is simply a strength of China. It's much over, just by the head count. There's no competition. So that's how, we keep that land, keep that border. And then Ireland people exodus, right, of Ireland, because their famine over there occurring about 40 years earlier, and that's about 4 million. And Europe to the rest of the world, about a similar time as Ireland. Ireland is part of Europe, so I guess that 4 million is counted for the 52 million. So that's the only one that's kind of 2 times of this Manchuria movement to Manchuria migration. So that gives you a scale of how many people actually on the move. And it was, well, this is 闯关东. I can show you how these words are used, just like classical Chinese. And this one actually is a simplified one in the middle, and then you can see the door frames, right? So 船 on the horse going far away, and one break through, passing through that barrier, that lock, door lock, and then you go toward the east, the northeast part beyond the barrier. So that's the migration history. And you can see the costumes back then. This is a pretty fur coat or fur hat, because it's really cold place, as you can imagine. Imagine Siberia and northeastern part of China, Manchuria, that's really freezing, 4 months before below freezing temperature piece of land, and people have to be heavily furred. All right, so that's the big chapter in Chinese history, migration to Manchuria, and we have a set phrase for that, which is 闯关东. All right, cash into the currency of thinking by one word a day with Sophie. See you another day.